You're listening to the Intentional Parents Podcast, brought to you by Intentional. Intentional is all about spiritual formation in the family. We desire to bring biblical hope and practical help. Enjoy this week's conversation.
I'm in deep thought.
What are you thinking about?
This little scripture scribble. Anyway,
Welcome back to the Intentional Parents Podcast. Phil, you're deep in thought about scribble?
no, I just scribbled down some scriptures.
Yes.
Scripture scribble.
Scripture scribble. Yeah, actually, I cannot wait for our kids to try to read your notes when you're long gone. They read there. I found a note from
I
Pops.
can print neatly when I slow
know.
down.
But the fact you know what it is, it's all your short.
Since I'm the only one reading it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been it's actually taken us a long time to start today. We had one of those impromptu meetings. Yeah. We started chatting and then an hour went by, and we were actually, fun thing we were talking about was the motherhood retreat. So a lot of fun stuff just came about.
A lot of good stuff.
I know you've already heard, if you've been listening, you already heard an advertisement or so of just, welcoming you to the motherhood retreat, but we're doing some real planning. We're really excited about it. So real fun stuff in store. Anything else you guys want to say to tease anything out, or should we not say? I don't want to put you on the spot.
Let's just go. Let's just go for it. It is 10 to 12 and we started meeting at like 9:45. So.
No, I was saying, do you want to say anything else about the motherhood retreat before we move on?
I thought you meant just go.
I know,
that's what I thought.
But I agree, yeah. So go.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Links in the show notes.
I'd just say, having listened to most of that meeting was our wives going back and forth, and the Holy Spirit speaking, and them going back and forth.
Yeah.
At the end, Elizabeth charted the whole thing out, and it's going to be powerful.
Yes.
And I pray
agree.
that, we already have a lot of moms signed up to come, but that many more.
Yes.
And we've been studying, and I've been studying, and I could study my whole life long because it's my great love. And
we had another meeting about that yesterday too.
Meeting about it yesterday. There's a point where you stop studying and you actually start writing. Yeah. And this morning I started writing for the motherhood retreat, and at one point I had to just almost, laughingly say to the Holy Spirit, slow down, I can't write that fast.
Yeah. Which I think is, we saw God do that last year.
Yeah.
Is it just felt like he's so clearly orchestrated what we were supposed to talk about in times that Mom and I had talked together, in times that were totally separate. Mm-hmm. And then we saw God do this incredible, it just felt like a move of God, just a move of the Spirit. And I left that thinking, gosh, how could that possibly happen again? And honestly, internally feeling like, okay, God, that was all my best stuff. I'm not sure there's anything else in me if we do this again. And that's just where I feel like we keep finding ourselves praying into again of, God, would you do it again? Would you do more? Yeah. Would you so clearly, we don't want to just get up and talk.
No.
We want to share what the Spirit wants to share. We want to speak to the things that the women actually need to hear. Yeah. And so we've been just asking God to do that again. And it feels like even in the conversation we just had, God's already doing it again. Yeah. Like he's weaving together this theme that he's weaving together.
Yes.
And so I think I just have a sense. I think at first I was a little bit skeptical of I don't know if God can do it again. And now I have this sense of, I think he's going
Ye
to.
of little faith.
And he can do more. And so
he can.
So as Mom said, what did you say? You weren't actually talking about just go.
Just go.
Just come.
So just come. Just come.
Just come to the retreat. And go ahead.
I would also say come and bring a bunch of people with you, because not only is it more fun, but we learn in community. And more than ever, that's not the way I was taught. It's not my natural inclination. The more I lean into bringing my actual thoughts and feelings to the people who are close to me, the more I grow and I learn from other people. Mm-hmm. So I feel like if you come in a group, then you have this huge added benefit of several other women speaking into your life in all the seams of the motherhood retreat and the times in between. So if you can, bring your mom, bring your sister, bring your best friends.
If
bringing your mom sounds disastrous, don't bring her.
Depends on the
you know what I'm
relationship.
saying. Bring those
Totally.
people
Yes.
who you trust and who can speak into your life, because we really believe that the Holy Spirit is already speaking to us as a team, to Elizabeth and I, to Brooke and Phil, and we think He wants to speak even more. And and He speaks in community, which is so amazing.
He does. And it's fun to hang out with all of you in real life. So,
and for those of you who were there last year and experienced the candy bar, we are doubling the size this year. So come ready to eat some sugar.
I don't think you have to really tell that many women to be ready for. I think any human's ready for that.
Yep.
By the way, both of your lipstick today, incredible. Did you guys talk to each other about this?
I was going to go to a Bible verse and you went to lipstick. But
because here's the deal. The Bible's real, but so is lipstick. And we have to talk about these are real things.
So here's how it happened. She came in wearing this lipstick, which is one her sister was wearing a couple weeks ago when she came to visit me. And I had a lipstick sitting in my drawer that I have not worn yet because I thought it was too bold. And she just gave me the courage, and I came out with it on and said, "What do you think? This is like
great.
Too much."
I'm noticing and complimenting. This is a compliment. No, because that's the real thing of like lipstick is real, you know. And also, I remember when we first got married, learning how expensive that was. Whoa, the budget items for like beauty care and skincare, that was a whole thing.
And it just goes up as you age.
It does. It does. Well, we're going to get into today. We're going to get into Bible. We're going to get into some ideas around apprenticeship to Jesus and teaching our kids and all of that. But did want to say to everybody, thank you for rating and subscribing. If you have done that, thank you so much. We so appreciate that. And it helps. So if you could just take a second and even leave a review, rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen. And then head over to YouTube, because you can watch all this now, and subscribe and even give that a like. That's very helpful for us. And if there's one way you could support us, that is one very tangible way. So thank you for everyone that's done that. So we want to talk about this kind of, stage theory is a strong word, but a process of formation. One of our key verses at Intentional is Deuteronomy 6. It's a great verse. And maybe I'll just read it to get foundation. Is that going to throw you off, or can I start with Deuteronomy 6? Okay. No. I'm going to start with Deuteronomy 6, and then it's a huge foundational verse because the moment I read it, you'll know it, but it's the Great Shema. And we teach this often, but it's this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today, are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, or when your kids wake you up, or tie them in symbols on your hands, bind them on your foreheads. And so this is the way. It's as we are going type discipleship, teaching our kids about Jesus. There's so much to unpack there, but we really wanted to talk about our responsibility before we get into Jesus's way. Our responsibility, or the responsibility of leading your kids to Jesus, teaching them the way of Jesus. God's plan A is for us to do that. Yeah. And Phil and Diane, you've done that brilliantly. You've laid that out in so many different things, like the film series and even the book, Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. And if you didn't know, this is a great moment to say, we do have a book. Phil and Diane wrote this book. When did it come out? 2018? 19?
Yeah, 2018.
2018, Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. Link will be in the show notes for that. But so just very helpful content. But I'd love for us to just take a second and talk about the importance of that foundation, and then just quickly capitalize and go right over to Jesus and Jesus's process. So any quick thoughts on that before we go to Jesus specifically? I know we have a lot.
When you were reading that, what jumped out at me, because my translation doesn't use that word, impress them on your children.
Yeah.
Yes. So right in the Great Shema, which Jesus said was the greatest commandment, we're told as parents to impress these things on our kids. So that's what jumped out at me.
You are enjoying content brought to you by Intentional, a crowd-funded non-profit that desires to help families and marriages all around the world in the area of discipleship and spiritual formation. This offering is completely free, thanks to the generosity of our growing community of legacy builders. Legacy Builders is a group of people from all over the world that gives monthly to fuel this dream that we have in our hearts of seeing discipleship to Jesus in the family become a way of life. A monthly gift of $5, $10, or even $30 can continue to fuel this ministry forward. Our dream is to invite people like you to join and partner with us at a financial level and to see this work integrated into families. So as you listen to this podcast, would you prayerfully consider joining us? Would you allow the Spirit to lead you, even if it's just a few dollars a month? Thank you so much. And may the Spirit of Jesus give you wisdom, clarity, and joy as you pray about joining us. If you want to join today, go to intentionalparents.org and click on Give.
Yeah, I think also that it's the parents he turns to. He doesn't turn to the Sunday school workers or the youth workers, or the authorities or the ones who've been to Bible college. And, he says, Mom and Dad, this is what I need you to do for me. And this is of utmost importance. Yeah. And I feel like, gosh, that is, if I could impress it on all of us, that this is, and it's not only, you never stop being a parent. So you're always encouraging your kids in this way, but now we're grandparents and we're coming along after Brooke and Elizabeth and after John Mark and Tammy and after Matthew and Simona now at their adorable little 3-month-old and Stephen Bex. And we're impressing these things on our grandchildren in a very different way than we did as parents. And I feel like, gosh, to have that, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I don't have any Christian heritage. My parents came to know the Lord late, but can you imagine having parents who this is their mission in life from the day you're born, and then they may be having grandparents and aunts, uncles, and cousins who are all doing this too. Gosh,
it's amazing.
And
that's one of the things. How's your phone doing?
Well, I'm looking up a note.
Do you want to go? Why don't you say what you're going to say, and then I'll segue us to the next part with Jesus. Does that work?
Yes, but I'm looking for the thing that I was...
Oh, am I putting you on the spot?
No, it's fine. I got it.
You can impress... So while she's looking that up, we had little baby Ellis with us for a few days last week when Rebecca came up, and so I got to sing to him.
Yeah.
But, even as a grandfather, I sang a song that you and I heard the morning we taught in Fresno, Awake my soul and sing his praise aloud. I'm singing this to a baby. That's going into that baby's ears and into that baby's heart. And the whole time I was singing it, I was, having fun with them, holding him up and bouncing him around. But I was singing, truth of God into his life. I think you can do it through all kinds of ways. Reading scripture, it's not just sitting him down, listen to the word of God. Of course, you're going to do that. You're going to read the scripture, but you're going to talk. It says talk about it when you walk by the way, when you rise, when you're tossing your grandkid up. So,
what's your thoughts, Sweet?
Well, I was doing a little study on this passage because we're going to be speaking at a church and talking about it. And something that I just stumbled upon that was so interesting is that the word hear in Hebrew is synonymous with the word do. So it was implied that not just we think of hearing as like, we just listen to it. We hear this thing and we're supposed to do it. But they would have immediately, you hear it and you do it. It's something you absorb, like sound waves go into your body. You embody it, then that's our walk with Jesus. Like it's something that is in us, something that we're experiencing. We're sitting with God. There's that reflection, but then there's also a part of our discipleship to Jesus that is actually doing something useful for others, teaching, training. But it's that beautiful both and I just love that the Hebrew word encompasses both in one word because it's one thing that means two things that requires two things. And then to what you were saying, Dad, like I think we so often have put discipling our kids in these categories of like, I need to be sitting and having family devotion time. I need to be having these very in-depth conversations and all that's great. But I love that it says when you walk by the way, like the idea of when you're home, when you're not in your home, and everything else in between and everything you're doing. And then even the tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads, like literally wear it. embody it so much.
Tattoo it, Phil.
Exactly. Exactly.
I knew you were going to say that. See, there's a verse for tattoos.
I'm not saying that's
against the other verse against tattoos.
Just lower back tattoos. That's all I'm saying. Just the great Shema.
Anyway, on the doorpost of your house too,
or on your lower back,
wall or whatever.
So, Elizabeth, that caught your attention. Years ago, I did a word study on this, and this phrase is very much like what you just saw. That it means listen with the intent to obey.
Yes.
Which is, and then, it's said twice, hear, which is the Hebrew way of putting a bunch of exclamation marks.
Yes.
With
yes.
This is important.
Emphasizing.
Yeah. And the reason we want to talk about this is because, remember, obviously, there's times when a lot of parents don't know that this is their responsibility, or they're not walking with Jesus themselves. You can't pass on what you don't possess. That's another thing we often say. That said, God's design originally was that the family would walk with Jesus and they would pass that on. And so we just want to talk about, like, really just practically, not just in theory, but practically, what does that look like to actually live out the Great Shema? And we're going to go to the greatest example, in my personal opinion, not Phil, although he's good, but Jesus.
Not me.
But let's talk about Jesus's way. And then we're going to talk about just a practical discipleship and or apprenticeship way of not only just having our kids follow what we do, but really what we want to do is help our kids apprentice to Jesus,
right?
Not to us, not to another person, but to Jesus. So how do we actually do that? So
well,
Jesus, there, Phil.
Jesus does it perfectly, and so he's our example. He's pretty much our example in anything.
I agree.
If you really don't know what to do, just scour your Bible and see how Jesus handled suffering, how he handled temptation, how he handled, hard questions or whatever. Yep. So we're going to talk about how you do discipleship with your own kids in the family. But Jesus, of course, never married, didn't have children. So we can't look at how he raised his own kids, because we're all his children. That's the beautiful thing. Yes. His family has millions and millions of children in it. But he did have a family.
Yes.
And in fact, I'm reading through Mark. I think I mentioned that on another podcast, but it always hits me that in Mark, in chapter 6, it actually says he has 4 brothers, and it names them, and sisters, plural. So he had at least 7, because 4 brothers and him is 5, and sisters, not just sisters. So there were at least 7 in his family. So he knows what it's like to be in a family, and that was interesting to me. So, but when he began his ministry, because he didn't have any biological kids, what did he do? He had to identify who he was going to raise up, and so he chose, of course, the 12 disciples. Well, so it says that he spent the whole night in prayer to God, and then he chose the 12 disciples. And so, if you have children, you don't have to spend the whole night in prayer to God to see who your children are. The moms have to spend the whole night in labor unto God to give birth, and that's when I thank God that I, am not a woman.
Have you heard that? No, there's that funny meme going around, like, the real miracle of Jesus was having 12 close friends in his 30s. Like, how come no one's talking about that? Anyway, that's a funny joke, but yes, you're right. Children are a gift from the Lord. So if you've had 1 child or 2 or 3 or 7 or more, they've been identified. So that's the first thing. You know who they are. God's given them to you. The great Shema says you're to impress on these children. And of course, the community, the wider church is involved in that as well. But it's the parents that are to do this as they walk by the way, as they rise up, etc. So identify them. That's the first thing. And then he begins his ministry, and the first thing they did is watch him. Okay, because they saw him heal, they heard him teach, they watched his life, and then after a while, he began to next involve them. So first he identified them, then he involved them, and I love how in Luke chapter 9 he's out teaching, and there's thousands of people, and they're hungry. Yes,
and the disciples come to him and tell him this, and he says, send the multitude. The guys say to Jesus, hey, send the multitude away that they can go into the surrounding villages and get something to eat. And he said, you give them something to eat. Well, he knew what he was going to do. He was going to take a few loaves and fishes and do a miracle, but he could have just done it. But he said, no, you give them something to eat. They go, well, all we have here is a few loaves and fishes. And then he tells them, He goes, have them recline in groups of about 50. So he didn't go around and make groups of 50. He told them to go make the groups of 50. So he involved them. And I think that's a beautiful thing, that when you're raising kids, they're watching your life, but then you begin to do things with them and involve them in whatever it is you're doing. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. So that's the second thing he did. And then later on, after they worked with him in doing miracles, he actually sent them out. And, he sent the 12 out. He sent them out 2 by 2. And then he gave them instruction. And let me just read a little bit of that, because I love this part, how he empowered them. In Mark chapter 6, it says here that he summoned the 12 and he sent them out in pairs, and he gave them authority over unclean spirits. He instructed them, don't take anything with you. And he said, whenever you enter a house, do this, do that. And they went out and preached. So that they already seen him preaching. So now he sends them out, but he doesn't go with them. And so I think there's a time raising kids where you've poured the Lord into them and scripture into them, and they begin to serve the Lord and live for the Lord on their own. And so, and with instruction from the Lord and from the parents. So that's the third thing he did. He identified it and he involved them. He empowered them. And then eventually, he launches them out into the world. He said, I'm going away. It's good that I'm going away, because I'm going to send the Holy Spirit, and he will remind you of everything that I said. And then he gives the Great Commission to all of us, go into all the world. And so we're launched out into the world. And I think it's a time with your kids where you launch them out in the world. You're still there. They can still talk to you. You're still praying for them, but they're out now identifying their own children, involving them, empowering them, and launching them out into the world. So that's God's plan. And so we see this, and Jesus did it perfectly, but it's a model for how we can do it with our kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love how sort of messy that whole thing is. Like it's not perfectly linear. It's like just in life, just part of, okay, here I am, and there's hungry people in front of me. I have a lesson to teach my kids, my 12 disciples. When you have a hungry group in front of you, how Jesus can do more than you imagine. I mean, it's just part of life. He's walking around with his disciples, living, eating, sleeping, doing all of life together. He's not just sitting down and saying, okay, I have a discipleship course with fill in the blanks, and we'll do a little quiz when we're done.
You're right. It's messy. And it's conversational, because when he sent the 70 out, which was later, it's actually in Luke 10, he sent 70 out 2 by 2, same thing, gave them instruction. And then they come back and they go, Lord, even the demons were subject to us in your name. They're like, it was amazing. Yeah. And he still teaches them, hey, don't rejoice in that. Rejoice that your name are written in the book of life. Rejoice, hey, there's something bigger than that. You're going to be with me forever. So he's still teaching. They're coming back. They're reporting. So it's messy. There's conversation. There's involvement.
It's almost opportunistic.
Yes, exactly.
We want to invite you to the Intentional Motherhood Retreat 2024. Last year, over 600 mothers gathered together to learn, to worship, both to encourage and to be encouraged. The Father spoke and the Spirit moved and Jesus healed. And it was so incredible that we cannot wait to do it again. We want to invite you October 3rd through 5th here in Bend, Oregon, where we live. We know that the journey of motherhood is both beautiful and it is hard. It is both life-giving and exhausting at times. And we just want to create space for the Spirit to refresh you in your journey. We're going to lean into how motherhood so gently and beautifully leads us in the way of spiritual formation. We're going to talk about how we need each other on the journey. We're going to talk about how our connection with God ultimately impacts the connection that we have with our kids. This retreat is both for mothers who desire to be mothers someday, all the way to grandmothers, and anywhere in between, because the truth is we all need each other. We need to learn from each other, and we need to be together. It was Dallas Willard who said, if you don't come apart for a while, you will come apart in a while. And that is especially true for us mothers. So we just invite you to come away with us. Let's see what the Spirit wants to do, and we can't wait to see you.
So with that, you mentioned something, Phil, that's really important. You mentioned the Great Commission. And what I love, verse 19, 28:19, you've heard it before, but the Message translation does a great job of breaking this down. It just says this: God authorized and commanded me to commission you, go out and train everyone you meet. I love that word train, far and near in this way of life, speaking about the way of Jesus, marking them by baptism in the threefold name, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Then instruct them in the practice of all I've commanded you. And I'm going to be with you as you do this, which is such a comforting thing as a parent, as a human. He's going to be with us as we do this day after day after day, right up to the end of the age. So with that framework, so powerful, that's our job. The apprenticeship framework or leadership model of like, how do we pass this on? There's a 4-step process that's, gone around for ages and ages, but the 4-step process is I do, you watch, I do, you help. That's the idea of, we're going to get into this, but in the idea of apprenticeship. 3rd, you do, I help. And 4th, you do, I watch. Now we're going to take this model of how do you pass something on, but we're going to take it and apply it to when you are teaching your kids the way of Jesus or teaching those around you. So the first step is really I do, you watch. And I'll just say this for us, especially because we have kids in all the different stages of many people listening. As Diane, you pointed out, it's very true. We do. And a lot of this is like faith initially is us doing and them just watching. It's them like just, oh, you're reading the Bible. Oh, we pray at stuff. Oh, we go to church. Oh, why are you raising your hands? Are you under arrest? Like, what's going on? Why are you raising your hands at church? Like, we've had these questions before, right? Okay. So I do, you watch. So let's take a couple moments to just kind of talk about what that looks like practically at any stage, really. But what does it look like in the home on a practical level?
My first thought is, I think this is one of the most important things we do as parents. And I think this is also the frustrating part of like, we want a method, we want a guarantee that if I just teach all these things in the right way, my kid will learn it and take it on. But if it's missing this crucial element of us following Jesus, of us doing all of the things that we want our kids to eventually do imperfectly, not hitting it every time, entirely imperfectly. But I just think to like silly little things that you guys did, not with some intentionality that we were going to catch on, but like you guys, this is not silly, but you read your Bible every morning. We woke up to you guys reading your Bible. Well, Mom was awake already having read her Bible. Dad, you probably got up after her. But we'd walk into the bedroom. You were sitting in bed reading your Bible. Yeah. Mom was sitting in her chair. And then every day you guys did some sort of exercise. Mom would go on a walk. You would go on a run or play basketball.
That's why you guys look so good.
Nothing over the top. Nothing like that anybody couldn't do. And 2 things that all of your kids do without even it's just not even a thought. We all exercise and we all read our Bibles.
It's funny, even on family, like when we do Camp Comer, when we do Christmas, it's like everyone knows, hey, the morning time is for reading and it's for exercising, and really don't mess with people. Like no one schedules stuff before a certain time because everybody knows they're going to say.
It's just assumed.
Well, we're obviously talking 10 a.m., right? Yeah. Like we're not doing anything.
But that is not ever because you sat us down and you said, and you taught it in some way. No. You modeled it and we eventually caught on. And so I think if we forget to do the next 3 things, it is the most important, I think, of all of them is really that important. We are doing it and living out our faith in front of our kids. Yeah. Again, imperfectly. It does not have to be perfect. If it was perfect, it'd be something they could never attain, you know? But doing it in real life, in real time, not in a legalistic way, but just this is a rhythm of my life, you know? And you think about even how Jesus taught his disciples. He just said, come on. Come watch what I'm doing. Yeah. Like he was already doing it. He was already going to do it. Yeah. He just invited them to come and walk shoulder to shoulder with him while he did it.
And this is leadership stuff too. I mean, talk about I mean, so much of parenting is leadership. But I mean, when you're trying to teach somebody something, it's just like, I'm going to do this. You just watch how it's done. And that's so powerful.
You're talking about example. I mean, I was thinking, so I do, you watch. I was thinking, oh, they're watching what you're doing all the time.
Yeah, they're watching anyway.
Whether you want it or not.
What are you doing? You know, that's what you're saying is that, you know, I think I read a quote recently from Albert Einstein.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it was,
Who's that guy?
I think it was Albert Einstein who said, example is not the best thing, it's the only thing. In other words, he's basically saying it's right up there, is that how you live your life is so important, and how I live my life, and as parents, how we live our lives before our kids. And like you said, Elizabeth, you're not going to do it perfect. That's when you apologize, and you're teaching them how to apologize by apologizing from your mess up.
And you know, I was thinking, I have so many parents who are just like eager, and they talk to me, they're eager, they're either pregnant or they just had their firstborn, and they're like, okay, what do I do? I want to start this right. I want to do this right. And for a long time I thought, well, it's years before you can actually do anything, because it is years before you can actually do teaching. But you know, those hours, I believe now, with all the brain science and attachment theory and all that, those hours that you spend being there when they need you, rocking them, soothing them, teaching them how to self-soothe. Those are all this very thing. They are, I do, you watch. And even with an infant, you know, I got to spend last weekend with my 3-month-old grandson. You know, you're holding him and you're rubbing his back and you're soothing him, and you're teaching him how to attach to the Father someday. It doesn't feel like it in the moment.
Sure.
But the fact is, you're putting something, now we know your brain doesn't forget anything. Your body even remembers those moments. So we're giving them the ability to feel what it feels like to be comforted by God, to be cared for by God, to be a person at rest and at peace. So this goes way beyond an actual action into just this felt ability that a child can have just by taking care of them, just by, you know, changing their sheets when they've been up 3 times in the night, throwing up, and you're weary and you're exhausted, but you're actually doing this. You're embodying the Father.
Or cleaning up pee off the floor like I was doing yesterday when our 5-year-old who waits too long to go to the bathroom.
No one has that experience. Oh my gosh.
I see her run across the house, and then I just hear her burst into tears.
My
and
favorite
I go in.
part, you didn't get to see this. She's in the bath upstairs, and I go upstairs.
Oh, yes, after the fact.
Yeah, she's in the bath, so you probably had cleaned everything up. Thank you, by the way. I don't remember where I was, but I was conveniently not there. And she's in the bath, and I was like, oh, you're taking a bath? And she goes, she told you, right? And I was like, told me what? What are you talking about? She goes, are you sure you don't know? And I was like, I don't know. What are you talking about? She's like, I held it too long again.
I was thinking of a much more pleasant example.
Yeah.
That, you know, you watch. I mean, how many little 3-year-olds sit down to the dinner table and enjoy a meal, and they maybe watch mom standing in the kitchen, but mom's laboring and cooking and serving, nourishing food to her kids. And years later, they might realize, like even me, I remember my mom made dinner every single night. And I remember dating a girl before Diane whose mom didn't do that. And she told her mom at Comer's it's Sunday dinner every night. Because it was like, get yourself a can of soup and make it yourself. You know, it's like, and her mom made dinner once a week, you know, and she was a professor in a college and stuff. But still, I'm just thinking those little daily things are, you're actually teaching and impacting and caring.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and you know, dads can make dinner.
I know.
Wouldn't that be amazing to
a lot of dads do.
I do.
I'll just say this.
Trader Joe's, baby. Yeah. That's how I make dinner.
But I also think we have to lean into strengths here, because our kids would revolt if that was my responsibility. Yes. And then also you said
they wish every night could be fend for yourself night.
Yeah, I know.
I've spent years and years and years making dinner every night, and their favorite night of the week is Sunday night, which is leftovers or fend for yourself. So they will ask all the time.
You call it what?
Hodgepodge.
Yeah, they call it hodgepodge.
Yeah, that's what we called it.
Well, that's probably
what
where
were you going to say? They would rebel if it was you were the cook?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, or they'd be loving it.
Actually, they'd
just
probably
give them
love
everything they want.
Yeah,
I just
ice cream, go for it. I don't have time to cook anything.
Your health matters to me, but not as much as my own internal peace. So
we do need to move on.
We need to move on.
Poached eggs. That's all I can make.
Story.
Okay, one story, and then we must move on.
But to your point of like the years of them watching and they eventually do it, I woke up this morning and went into my bathroom. I like things very clean.
This was so thoughtful.
I like things very clean and organized. But when it comes to like my bathroom drawer and like makeup drawer and things like that, they're always a disaster. I cannot keep them clean to save my life.
But you found the lipstick and it looks great.
That's true. Because it's not in the drawer. It's in my purse.
That's why.
And I wasn't feeling good last night. It was a bad pain day and I went to bed early and I woke up this morning. Scarlett had taken a bath in our bathroom. I woke up this morning and opened my, what was very messy drawer to grab something and everything was organized. And I opened the next drawer. Everything was organized.
Oh my gosh.
It's
She's speaking your love.
It's like, who did this? I opened the top drawer. Everything was completely organized. And I asked her when she got up, I said, was that like you were the last one in the bathroom? I was trying to figure out if you did it or if she did it. And she goes, it was me. And she just had a moment of.
No, I can tell you. You don't even know.
I was asleep. So
you were
tell
sleeping.
Me.
I was taking the kids through the history of the 1988 movie Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. What a funny movie to watch with the kids. Also, skip some spots. There's some spots to skip for sure. But it was so funny to watch our kids laugh at like the whole dynamic. It was really funny. But you went to bed early and then same deal. She comes out and she's like, hey Dad, I just want you to know I organized Mom's drawers for her. I know she's having a really high pain day and I know that would help her. And I said, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. And I'm having all these moments of like, honey, you have to remember like,
it's okay. You don't have to take it on.
You don't have to take it on. I can take care of Mom. And she's like, well, we can all take care of Mom. I was like, I agree, but you get to be a kid. Like you don't have to do this. And then she, what you also didn't know is her chore for that day was folding laundry. And she had asked everyone to put their piles away. Well, it was 9:30 at night and no one had done it. And I was like, I'm not doing that right now. I'm going to bed. Like I'm getting everyone in bed. I was like, I'm going to figure that. I'll do it in the morning. And she goes, Dad, I'm going to do the piles too. I just know Mom doesn't want to wake up to that. And I was like, honey, you really don't have to do that. It's okay. And she's like, no, I want to. It's fine. So anyway, she just had so much love for you, and she had seen from you doing that to other people, or just even some of the ecosystem of our home. Like that's how you show that you love somebody. And it's the I do part. We have to move on to the next one. But yes, that's a great story, and I couldn't believe it.
That's a beautiful story, and she learned that along the way somehow. She saw you have an incredible ability to make things neat. Except for your drawers.
Just not keep certain parts of it.
But, the day she was over here and, we have the toy closet and it gets, mess. And she said, is it okay if I organize? When she was done, it was every book was perfect. Everything was where it belonged, and now it's a disaster again. But she has
by the way, I did pay her money for that.
Well,
that
is very sweet.
That girl has so many potential jobs.
It's true. But the cool part is she doesn't actually need things to be neat. Okay. There are some people who they're doing that because they're stressed by the environment. She loves things to be very messy. Okay. She has the ability to organize things, but she doesn't have any need for it to be clean.
Which is more power to her.
But what is starting to emerge that was honestly not there before, and it's been beautiful to watch it emerge, is an awareness of others, a care for others. And she's starting to realize how joyful it is and how happy she feels when she gives to others or serves others. Yeah. And so it's just one of those things of it's years and years and years of I do, you watch. And then all of a sudden you see them start to do the very things you've been a little discouraged. You're not sure they're ever going to
So that
also
moves us to the I do, you help. Yeah. We have a new offering for you. If you would like to receive daily or weekly text messages and encouragement around parenting, marriage, with prayers and scriptures, click the link in the show notes and we would love to send those to you. Can't wait to connect more with you. So that's the other part is the next part is I do, but I'm going to include you. This is that stuff of like, I remember when Duke was really young and I hate building Legos. Don't tell him. He knows I don't but he loved it. And I remember I was like, forever when he was young, you'd help him build the thing. Right. But then what would happen was I would feel so like, not only did I hate it, but I was not good at it. So as quickly as I could, I just included him with building it and taught him how to read the instructions, which was amazing because he did so quickly. And I'm telling you, to this day, like we mentioned a couple episodes ago, we had just gotten a trampoline. Finally, I was worn down long enough to get one. And it was amazing. Him and his friend literally did 90% of putting it together. I was on the phone with you, Phil, and some other friend, and he literally with his buddy was like, "Oh yeah, Dad, we'll take care of this." Reads the instructions. They're 2 dudes now. They're just putting the whole thing together. I'm like, this is so great. This is so great to have a boy who's basically a man, and he's like, "I do, you help." And so I can't count the endless amounts of times that he's come along the way with me to do things. But that's that you show him like, here's what that looks like. Here's how that is. I mean, that's the stuff you were just talking about.
Letting your kids in the kitchen with little like non-sharp knives help make the salad. Like, Mom, you were so good about that. You didn't sit down and say, now kids, I'm going to teach you how to cook. But I recognize now how inconvenient it was to have us, quote unquote, helping with anything in the kitchen. It's something I've had to stop myself because I can get everything done a lot faster by myself. Right. I don't really want to include my kids in the kitchen, but I want them to know how to cook. And so just remembering, you started with teaching us how to make a salad, and then it became our job to make a salad. Or actually, I think it started before that with setting the table, which I have to say, I don't set the table for dinner. Very rarely, unless we're having people over. So I didn't take that one on. And Sabbath.
But my mom was an example there. She set the table. Sometimes she would, before Dad got home from work, she would realize, oh my gosh, he's going to be home in 5 minutes. Quick, Dad, set the table. So it looked like dinner was started.
And was it her or Mary Corson that said, and then just chop up onions and garlic?
That was my mom.
And start sauteing it so it smells like something amazing is happening.
Said it in
That's such a good idea.
So it smelled like something.
Yes.
Which was also just understanding that a hungry man's coming home, and my mom was at the time full-time at home, and she was going to do this great thing. So maybe you don't set the table, but you set the scene. It's the principle of that you are for your family. You are setting the scene of a family dinner and all of that kind of thing. I think in this area, in the walk with God arena, it is when first I do, you watch, and maybe like you said, you watched your parents get up and be in the Word. But then I do, you help has to do with maybe you say, okay, you've got a reader now, and you say, oh yes, okay, it's this day, and so we're going to do Proverbs, and why don't you read 6 verses?
Yes.
And then you're hanging out with them. They're sitting at the kitchen table reading it while you're scrambling eggs, and you're saying, okay, so honey, did anything like make sense to you? Do you feel like anything meant something to you? That is, I do, you help. As a parent, I'm helping that child value the Word of God, and I'm also helping that child understand that it's not just knowledge, that he's listening to God in that, because Mom's going to ask, did you hear anything? Did anything stand out to you?
Yes.
So.
Or, you take them with you when you go do something. And it could be something like at church, like, hey, they need people to set up chairs. Why don't we go do it together? We'll stop at coffee on the way, and I'll get you, your favorite pastry, and we'll go do this together.
Yes.
Involving them. Jesus involved them. You give them something to eat. So I think there's so many ways we can do that.
Yeah.
Taking them along with us, involving them in life.
And like you said, Elizabeth, it's way easier not to. My mom actually didn't let us in the kitchen, and for good reason. I made a mess in the kitchen. But then I was really poorly equipped when we first got married. I remember one of the first meals just was such a disaster because the zucchini, I didn't realize zucchini took so little time to get ready. So it was this mushy mess by the time the meat was done, because I'd never had any practice in the kitchen.
But the I do, you help thing, I'm thinking of that in ministry context, or even like when we're talking about the context of teaching your kids the way of Jesus, that's like you volunteering at church and bringing them along.
Exactly.
Yes.
I know for us that was built in for so many years because of ministry. Our kids would want to come with me early. So I was like, okay, you can come early, but this is what that means. And when we're in the car, before we get there, we're praying for the day.
Yeah.
And when we actually get out, you're going to find an area to help. So you can help set up coffee, set up chairs. You can do this, you can do that. And I remember, especially with Duke and Scarlett, all these really special years, especially when they were young, where they would come early and they would like, their responsibilities, like, but my friends don't have to come to pre-gathering prayer. I was like, that's cool. You're going to come to pre-gathering prayer and you're going to be present. And you like, it wasn't always, easy, but I would say it was just it was such a sweet time to the I Do You Help. So,
and you're actually teaching them, I'm going to take ownership of my church. I'm not just, I'm not just an observer.
A consumer.
I'm not the audience. I'm not a consumer.
Yeah.
Exactly. I have an important part to play.
Yes.
And it might be pouring coffee. It might be coming out on spring work day to clean up the grounds together, but we're a family. Yeah. This is our extended family.
John Mark, here's John Mark. He's a pastor. He's a writer. He's, God's using him in this powerful way. But when we were at Santa Cruz in those years, and when I stepped into the lead pastor role, he was 9, I think. And the elders prayed at 7:30 in the morning on their knees before the 8 o'clock service. Why the 8 o'clock service? Anyway, so I involved him. I brought him. I said, hey, can I bring my son? Nobody was bringing their sons in there.
Yeah.
And they looked like, I guess so. And everybody was wearing a suit and tie. So we got John Mark that blazer and a tie. He was crazy. But we lived right next to Kelly's Bakery, which was the most amazing French bakery right by our house. Yeah. And so we hit it first. And he had his favorite thing that he got. He got his pastry. I got my coffee. We buzzed in there. And he's on his knees praying with the elders. And he prayed. So I think that's the I Do You Help. I had to be there. I was the lead pastor, but he came with me and we made it a fun, like you did with Scarlett and like you did with your kids when you start when they're young, man.
Yeah, it's easier when
they can do a lot of stuff when they're really
young. And they love being a part of it, just being included. Yeah. So the third one, and we'll wrap up quick. You do, I help. So this is when you're passing that authority on. I mean, this is for our older kids. This is, hey, you. Whether it's like studying the scriptures, whether it's prayer, it's like, hey, you are starting to develop your own prayer life. You are now in that space of you're doing the thing, but I'm helping. How can I help? Where are you getting stuck? What are the things that you need help with? So let's spend a minute or two on this, and then we'll go to the last one.
Well, I'm going to send it back to you because you just told us recently about conflict, about a conflict.
Sure. Different
conflicts that have, been part of middle school and high school and drama and all that stuff that is just inevitable. Sure. And instead of just telling your kids what to do, you were actually coming alongside them and even giving them some conversational scripts of how to best resolve these things and how to say it and how not to say it and what maybe needed to be added. I mean, you were sitting right beside them, and that is... You do. This is what you do.
You need to do it.
You're going to be a peacemaker.
I'm not going to do this for you. You need to do it.
I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to intervene. I'm not going to rescue you. But I'm going to sit beside you and I'm going to tell you, here's some things you should say, maybe some things you shouldn't say.
Oh, yeah.
I think
that's exactly right.
You said in one of those conversations, Brooke, that you were like, silently in the background saying, no.
Otherwise. Different words.
But I mean, how many adults get to the 30 and 40 years old and they never learned how to do that. They don't know how to resolve conflict with the idea of peace and reconciliation in mind. But conflict is every day.
Yes.
I think I don't want to go off on something, but most of the politicians that we are elected officials have yet to learn how to follow Jesus in the way of resolving conflict.
Sure.
So this is a big one where you do. Your child does. And you
If you're enjoying this content and you want to go deeper, we have an amazing resource that we want to tell you about. It's the Intentional film series, Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. Now, this is an incredible tool for you for spiritual formation in the family. And we created this film series to help parents in their God-given task to raise and disciple their own children. Now, our hope is that we're able to help you and give you some of the tools that I know we so desperately need as we're in the process of raising our kids, and Phil and Diane have actually raised their kids. This is a 9-session film series on the process of what raising a passionate Jesus follower actually looks like. There's some workable solutions in here, there's a bunch of wisdom from the scriptures, and there's a bunch of practical help in your journey as you are raising your children. We cover all sorts of things like parental roles, goals versus values. What is discipline versus punishment? How do I create a heart of obedience in my child where they actually want to obey? What does a heart of self-control look like? Or how do I even help my child in the process of character development? We cover that and so many more things. You can use this film series in a variety of ways. You can use it at your home, preferably with your spouse if that's applicable, with a group of friends or in your community, or even through your local church. All you need to do is head over to our website, intentionalparents.org, click on film series, and then follow the prompts. We have a bunch of other resources there that you can check out, but we do pray that this blesses you in your pursuit of raising passionate Jesus followers. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's age and stage appropriate, but yes, I think even with what you're referring to, it's coaching. It's a lot of this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and I'm going to set you up as much as I can. And then this is I know for us, this is the witness. Like a lot of kids will be scared to try things on their own, but the secret language I think is, how about I do this with you? Yeah. So even in those situations, like those conversations, even with the things you're referring to, it was like, hey, I'll sit with you while you make that call, if that's helpful, and I'll sit in it with you, and then we'll process before, we'll pray before, we'll talk about it after, I'll be with you during it. And I think that's a huge comfort to your kids. I think sometimes kids resist doing those things because they just need you to be with them. And you don't have to do it, but they need you to be with them.
And they don't have a clue how to. We expect our kids to do things that we haven't actually taught them how to.
I know. That's a really funny dynamic. I remember that.
That's the whole I do, you help. If you haven't done that first and we're just like, okay, now you do. Yeah. And you take off the I help part, then they feel like abandoned and like this is too big. Yeah. I also think there's, especially to parents of boys, moms of boys, I think there is an intuition that fathers have for boys specifically of when they need to be pushed before sometimes a mother feels like they're ready.
If they're good, healthy fathers.
Yes, if they're good, healthy fathers. Yeah. And this is where I think we talk about this a lot, parenting and team is so helpful. If there's been so many times when Duke has needed the you do, I help, but I jump in and help too much, or I have a tendency to want to rescue because it seems like he's too uncomfortable, and he will kind of tap me on the shoulder and say, nope, he can do this. Yeah. He needs to be pushed. He needs to be uncomfortable. And so I think this is a tricky one in that there's no age or stage, there's no extreme clarity around it, but I think there is a point when we are having them do something and we're coming alongside and supporting, and they're going to feel really uncomfortable. Yeah. But we have to be okay with their discomfort if we feel like it's something that is going to lead to their growth. Yeah. And I think that's a tricky one where you really have to listen to each other.
You have to have a relationship.
Yeah, you have to, when we read how Jesus did it, this is the empowering. Mm-hmm. He helped him. He said, I'm going to send you out, and this is what you do. You don't take this, you do that, and this is what you're going to do when you're out there. Yeah. And if this happens, this is what you do. But then he didn't go with them. Yeah. And so they would have been out there like, okay, we've been sent out now. Yes. And so I think that's a good point. You're saying there is that point to where, and they're going to learn through that too. And then he came back and he talked to them about how it went.
So much of it is the I help is so much of what you do, I think, in the older stages of life. I'm thinking about, mowing the lawn versus to building a fire. Like there's so much of it's like, I remember even teaching all of our kids, like, here's how you build a fire. Like, this is just a good thing to know. And teaching about how you chop wood and what to do and how to actually build a fire from top down or bottom up, like all the different ways you could do it. And they get really into that stuff. And then they get really pumped that they know how to do it and their friends don't. Yeah. Or if they learn something like that.
Okay, so I don't know how to build a fire. So I'll teach you. We've got this little fireplace in the back, this little thing. So I would like you to maybe teach me how to build a fire.
Duke will teach you. Duke will teach you. Or Scarlett, they know how. They totally know how.
See, I do know how to build a fire, but apparently I never taught her. But I think the important thing is the help is an instruction. And then the doing they do. That's what this whole thing, you do. Now you go do. I'm not going to do it for you. Yes. I may not even be there when you do it.
And it's important in all sorts of learning. I'm having to keep pushing myself to understand and learn technology. And one of the best teachers for me has been Nate Kubish, our friend, who's brilliant in this area. He always makes me do it.
Yeah.
He always sits next to me and tells me what to do. I would really rather he just do it for me. But he always, he understands he's really a teacher all the way through. He understands that unless I actually do it, I'm never going to learn it, especially somebody who, like me, who wasn't raised with computers and technology. So it is a principle through all, like you keep saying, leadership.
It's leadership. It's so true. So the last one, and we'll be done. You do, I watch. And so that's that idea that you are sending them out. You're launching them. You're doing it. And now I get to watch. I get to help. And I'll still be there. There'll still be those moments. Maybe I do help in certain occasions, or maybe I'm a part of it. But now it's on you, and you're sent in the world. You're walking with Jesus, or you're doing the job. It's a really I think it's also a really beautiful thing. We're probably not fully there yet I know we're not with our kids, but we're definitely in the first 3 big time.
Yeah.
But you guys have experienced the you do, I watch.
We are still watching.
Yeah. What's it like to watch?
And I don't think that watching is passive. I think that watching is also cheering on, saying, I'm seeing that you're stretching yourself into this. I mean, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I've seen you grow into this leadership role on our team and learning all this stuff. I mean, all this camera setup and technology. I'm not only watching it, but I'm saying what I'm seeing. And that's part of watching. I think that's more of an active watching.
Yeah.
So yesterday I said, thank you for learning all this stuff. None of us know how to do any of this. We don't even know how to put it away when you're finished.
We thank God for you.
And we don't even help.
But
and they don't
you
even
can teach us to help.
to.
Maybe you need to start teaching us to help you.
It's actually harder. So that's equivalent to kids in the kitchen.
Yes.
So
I get it. But I just, so everybody knows you're never going to stop being involved in your kid's life. So I was listening to a podcast from John Marks while I was working out at the gym day before yesterday. And then I texted him something about it. I actually had a kind of a nerdy question about somebody that he quoted. But he knew I'm watching him still. I'm still watching, and I'm in that. I know a teacher from ages ago wrote a book, and she talked about being somebody's balcony people. I'm in the balcony. This is where Phil and I are right now. We're in the balcony of our kids, and we're cheering them on, and we're seeing it, and we're telling them what we see. Because when you're in the middle of it, you don't know.
Sure.
You can't see yourself. But we are now at this stage where that's like an active duty job for us to watch them.
And I love that you shared that, because I was just going to share Hebrews 12. There is a cloud of witnesses in the balcony cheering us on, watching. It says we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us. Let's run the race. Let's lay aside the encumbrance. So I think that the Christian life is this race, and there's people that have gone before cheering us on, and angels, and you guys are watching. Like, for instance, I was thinking of you and Scarlett. You taught her how to do worship with you, and you were up there with her. But there have been Sundays where you said Scarlett singing Sunday.
Yeah.
And you're in the front row with your hands raised worshiping. And that's, you do, Scarlett. I watch.
It's also crazy that she's 11 and doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
But we've also had a lot of, that's a lot. That's a great
But what a beautiful thing. You never stop watching.
You never stop watching.
And God is always watching us too. Every single second.
And encouraging
us, cheering us on, answering our prayers.
Well, and just to say, we have a responsibility to do this. So use this conversation today, right? Like, take this. I think, Phil, you did a brilliant job of laying out how Jesus did it. And then the synthesized version of what we just said, the I do, you watch, I do, you help, you do, I help, you do, I watch. That's a mouthful, but we'll have those in the show notes so you can take them down, slowly process where that's at. And may this just give you help and hope and encouragement as you are raising your own kids. This is a big deal. So enjoy.